Electronic Arts, EA, weren't always the enemy. This may sound hyperbolic to some, especially given the title and topic of this video, or it may even sound like a tenuous attempt to insert a Dark Knight become the villain reference. But in order to give some context to how EA have shaped and been shaped by the industry and the public's opinion of it, it does bear stating. Before the large monolith studio everyone loves to hate, although, side note, Ubisoft, Activision, Blizzard all seem to all be vying for that position these days. Before they became the most vilified games company, there was a time in the 1990s where their output was considered varied and exciting, if not always groundbreaking, either as the developer themselves or being keen to publish titles from other developers, titles ranging from the Road Rash series to the Desert Strike series, the likes of Syndicate, SimCity, Theme Park, Command & Conquer. All these titles and series had EA to thank for being brought to all platforms, obviously to varying degrees of success, but still brought nonetheless. In fact, Bullfrog and Firaxis, which have always made some of my favourite simulation games, have had EA backing them since the start, before the inevitable buyouts that brought them all under the Electronic Arts umbrella completely. Of course, the big growth of EA happened in the 2000s, and that in fact was in no small way down to the licensing agreements they held for a lot of publishing deals. From The Simpsons to Harry Potter, EA managed to put out a plethora of content under different license banners. And of course then the boom of the shooter genre saw the Medal of Honor series skyrocket sales. But in terms of actual developed games, aside from Medal of Honor, most of EA's success came from the EA Sports line.
EA Sports, it's in the game.
Before they started sucking up all these developers in a manner that would make even Disney blush, EA Sports have always been massively successful, due in no small part to their licensing arrangements helping establish them as the face of each sport. From NFL to the NHL, from Formula 1 to the PGA Tour, EA used the official branding to become the forefront and sometimes only name in a certain sports video game fields. Which is why this year's goodbye to the most well-known and beloved franchise of them all, the FIFA series, which is a now nostalgic series 30 years old, is also a large gamble on their part. Lest we forget, the hubris of EA is well known, and the last time they believed themselves bigger than the brand they were marketing led to a massive backlash. It saw a drop in market value and a huge rethink and retread on their part with the now infamous Star Wars Battlefront 2 Pride and Accomplishment loot box debacle. And the FIFA game brand itself is also now rather notorious in the larger world of politics and entertainment, after being brought before several countries' governments for their allegedly predatory microtransaction practices. Is history about to repeat itself with the launch of EA FC24 and a goodbye to the iconic FIFA name? Now, as of this moment, it's easy to see why EA Sports have chosen this year to make the switch from FIFA to its own branded EA FC, with IGN reporting that FIFA wanted a rather hefty $1 billion per each 4-year World Cup cycle. And of course, this is without the fact that FIFA themselves are planning to change the World Cup cycle to down to 2 years if their proposals go through. So, unlike its sole competition, the former Pro Evolution Soccer series, which is now itself rebranded to eFootball by Konami, EA has still gone ahead and worked with over 30 leagues to ensure licenses for players, teams and competitions. So whilst a lot of people in the industry assume that the lack of an official license from FIFA would be a hindrance, they still have all the teams, the kits, the names and everything else that you would associate with the FIFA series, without having to spend a good amount of time renaming and editing yourself, as a lot of people did in the Pro Evolution Soccer series. You don't have to worry about having to edit or delete and rename teams, kits, etc. No North London Whites or Merseyside Blues in sight. This is indeed a factor that I believe has really helped the branding for EAFC, as you can see a lot of the stars in their respective team jerseys prominent in all the marketing seen thus far. In fact, given how its only competitor, Konami, and their eFootball series is only making a half-hearted attempt at football games these days, with no physical copies and a free-to-play model with in-game purchases only, it's easy to see why EA no longer wishes to pay for a name that by itself means very little, and whose brand value has mostly been raised by EA themselves over the last 30 years, whereas the real-life FIFA Federation has done nothing but cover itself in controversy due to greed, bribery and corruption charges that even EA would be horrified at. It could be a very easy time for them to let go. However, therein also lies the rub and the potential for downfall. EA Sports and FIFA are synonymous with each other. But if another competitor were to come along, and the cost of licensing being prohibitive to costs, would we see another situation similar to the NBA Live series, which seemingly waved the white flag against 2K Games' NBA series? EA themselves took a time out after NBA Live 2019 fell way below sales expectations, and with the cancellation of NBA Live 20 and 21 respectively, there has been no word from them ever since on them reviving the series. FIFA as a series may not necessarily be as well known in the mainland United States as, say, the NFL or NHL, which is why EA are continuing with those particular licensing deals for now, but if consumers had another option on the store shelves, would the casual audience or family member who buys quote-unquote FIFA every year for their child, relative, get confused by the name? I mean, for example, how many of us have had a well-meaning relative say, "Oh, I know you wanted this football or fighting or whatever genre game that you wanted for Christmas, birthday, etc. I hope this is okay." Instead of it being the one we wanted, it was a different version and not one that we really wanted. It's a scenario that is seen played out several times before, and obviously back in the 2010s and 2000s you would see a lot of people who would end up with a Pro Evolution Soccer instead of a FIFA. Nowadays, of course, the marketplace is sorely lacking for competition, a complaint which has itself been levied against the FIFA series for a number of years now, with very little changing between iterations, bar an update in rosters for the most part. FIFA 23 was a huge driver for growth for EA the last fiscal year, ironically even topping the charts upon its release for games sold in September in the US, above its NFL stablemate. But say a 2K Games or Konami were to stump up the cash for the FIFA licensing, how much difference would that make? Whilst FIFA 23 lifetime sales figures aren't available, with the most recent only being made available for the first month of sales, it has outsold every other instalment in the franchise's history, according to EA's Q4 and year-end 2023 financial reports, and was on pace to outsell the previous top title in the series, which according to GameRant is FIFA 18 with 26.4 plus million total sales. With approximately 25% of sales being physical, if people are looking for a FIFA game and can't find it in lieu of EA FC, will this affect EA's bottom line? Of course, with 75% of sales of the FIFA series being digital in nature, and with 75% of revenue EA sees from those games being made from its live service and in-game sales, how much of a potential drop compared to the savings that they've actually made of $1 billion by not taking up the name of FIFA again may be negligible. And EA CEO Andrew Wilson is certainly calculating it to be a risk worth taking. Of course, winning a race when you're the only runner is still technically a win, but EA still make sure to implement contingencies. As their forecast and year-end stats for recurring titles states, as you can see here on screen, If demand isn't consistent for recurring titles, we may cease to offer games. They certainly have a contingency put in place. We saw it with the NBA series, and there's no guarantee that we won't see it with their FC, formerly FIFA series. 30 years is a long time to establish a brand, and even though only through licensing of said title, despite Andrew Wilson's insistence that EA is only offered 4 letters on a box by the FIFA branding. In the public's consciousness, the two are intrinsically linked. With now less than 2 months to go until the release of EA FC24, only time will tell if the risk-reward strategy taken in shelving the largest part of their marketing will be a fool's gamble. Or, I guess since this is EA we're discussing, should that be a surprise mechanic? Either way, the marketplace has never been in such an open position in 30 years for a new competitor to emerge. We can only look on and see if anyone will take up that challenge, or if fancy a game of FIFA is still as ubiquitous a phrase after moving to EA FC as it has been the past 30 years. After all, as Elon is learning this year, you can change and rebrand as much as you like, but that won't necessarily change people's perception or their language. Still Twitter to most? X be damned. EA are hoping, however, that a FIFA by any other name is still just as sweet to its bottom line. So, I hope you enjoyed today's video. A bit of a different one, looking at something a bit more contemporary. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you feel that EA losing the FIFA license is a detriment to them? Or do you believe that EA FC will go on to be more successful than anything else in the series thus far? Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.
We await your return, warrior.